Before we get started here, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping things. First, this presentation is being recorded, so it will be available later on this week, early next week on our stormwater website for viewing. Second, there'll be question and answer session following the presentations. Now, there are two ways that we can take questions. The first, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type in your question. Somebody from the panel will either respond to you by typing back or choose to answer it live during the Q&A session. The second option for asking a question is by using the raise hand button. If you do that, we'll see that you have a question to ask and we can call on you to ask it live. When we do call on you, you'll be prompted to unmute. Just simply click that unmute button and you'll be able to ask your question directly. So with that, I'll turn it over to Janice.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. I'm Janice Catherman, Assistant Land Use Administrator with Newcastle County Stormwater Management Program. This evening, we have a full agenda, so we're going to get right to our first speaker this evening is Michael Harris. Michael is the Stormwater and Environmental Program Manager for Newcastle County, and Mike's presentation is titled National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit and Clean Streams Initiative. That's a mouthful, and Mike will be able to explain. If you would mind, Mike, I'm going to pause. We have the county executive, Matthew Meyer, available with us, who would like to say a few words. Good evening, county exec.
Hey, good evening. Thank you, Janice. I was excited to hear from Mike, but I'll stay on after I talk. I just have a few quick things. First of all, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This is obviously extremely important to bring everybody together, Maintenance Corporation board members, those who are leading in your communities. The first thing I want to say is just thank you to each and every one of you. I think in general, one of the hardest, most thankless jobs in our county is the job of being on a neighborhood association board or a maintenance corporation board. Let's be honest, you don't get paid the big bucks for what you do. Often you're trying to enforce, dues issues or sometimes very intensive neighborhood disputes, sometimes making sure open spaces are taken care of or stormwater is appropriately handled. So I wanted to thank each and every one of you, not only for what you do every day, but for joining us tonight. We hope it's helpful to you. Second, I want to thank our team. I think we actually have an extraordinary team in Newcastle County government who is here to assist you with your stormwater management issues. Janice, Catherman, Shannon, Giordano, Ellie, Mortazavi, Mike Harris, among others, are all working very hard to make sure that your communities are taken care of. We all have an important job working together of maintaining critical stormwater infrastructure that really protects our water quality. When we talk about a lot of environmental issues that are national or even global issues, it comes down to acting locally, and we recognize that you are on the front lines, and it's our role many times to have your back and make sure that we do whatever we can to protect your stormwater systems. I want to touch on just a very brief moment our Green NCC initiative, because we 2 years ago announced the most ambitious series of environmental green initiatives in Newcastle County history, and we're working very hard every day to protect and preserve not only the water and water quality in our communities, but also the air and land, which also, of course, interconnects with our water quality and making sure that our communities are sustainable for generations to come. A few quick things I wanted to mention. I encourage you, I'll type in the chat window if you're interested in learning more, to go to green.newcastlede.gov, where you can learn more about what I'm about to talk about and any other initiatives. The goal of the program is to enhance water and air quality, to encourage healthy and eco-friendly lifestyles, to conserve and protect local habitats, to protect smart growth, and finally to reduce harmful emissions by promoting renewables and improved energy efficiency. Among our achievements are, a couple of years ago, we achieved an improved federal community rating system from FEMA, which meant that for taxpayers and the residents across the county, it led to a 20% reduction in flood insurance rates to anyone paying flood insurance within Newcastle County. The FEMA program rewards communities, counties that have quality mitigation and floodplain management policies and systems. It rewarded our outreach efforts that exceeded the minimum national requirements. We also began installing electric vehicle charging stations in public places, mostly in libraries, to reduce emissions, that anyone who has an electric vehicle will have a quick, easy place to charge, of course, not needing to go to a gas station. We also required that only native plants be planted on any county public lands. And in fact, part of my executive order I signed encourages all of you to not plant any invasive plants in any of your common spaces or also in any of your personal open spaces and gardens. Some of you might know our Great Schools Clean Streams program. We achieved a record number of clean stream pledges from families. We're now up over 16,000 pledges annually not to pour fat soils and grease down the drain. As a direct result of that, we've achieved the lowest number of sanitary sewer overflows, harmful overflows to our sewer system, the lowest number in county history, down over 70% in the past decade. I could go on and on. Let me just add one more thing. We have a rain barrel discount program where you could get a nice big rain barrel for your garden or for your common space. I think the cost was $50, steeply discounted for what you'll get on Amazon or at Home Depot. We're planning to expand that program in 2021. We have sample stormwater management projects at Government Center at the county government headquarters in Newcastle, and also a sample rain garden at Paper Mill Park. I encourage you to check it out and replicate it in your own communities. So without further ado, let me turn it back over to Janice and Mike. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming together tonight.
Thank you, sir. Michael, if you would please do your presentation.
I'll share my screen now. Somebody else is sharing, so there we go. Okay, thank you, everybody, and thanks, Matt, for kicking things off. And I'd like to kind of build on what Matt said, and thank our team for getting all the inspections done this year, and thank all the maintenance corporations, because we really appreciate what you do. It's always difficult. Stormwater facilities are really fragile pieces of infrastructure we ask you to maintain. If you don't maintain them properly, they don't work properly, and we appreciate all your help on that. So I guess I'll start with my presentation here. I want to tell you about this Clean Stream Champion program. It's a county initiative that we started last year. We kicked off, and it's a pledge drive that encourages you to take 5 simple steps. We realize that to meet our water quality goals, there's no way we're going to do it without having people take actions on their own properties. That's where water pollution starts, and that's where it can stop. So the Clean Stream Champion program is a simple pledge to scoop the poop, garden for water and life, put only rain down the drain, reduce household chemical usage, and cease the grease. And the way you do it, just go to our website, cleanstreamchampion.org. We're working with Delaware Nature Society on this program. It's very easy. You just take a simple pledge. Your pledge gets registered. We don't bombard you with emails. It's not, anything like that. You do get entered into a quarterly drawing for a green prize that kind of fits the theme of the quarter. We give away rain barrels. We give away green cleaners and things like that. So it's a great program. We hope you all take advantage of it. And at the end, I'm going to talk about a little special contest we're going to have for the seminars. So in that spirit, and since the holidays are quickly approaching, I thought I'd come up with some holiday gift ideas for you. or gifts for any celebration, for birthdays, for anything you celebrate. So let me kick those off for you. So if you're a dog lover like I am, or you know somebody that's a dog lover, a great gift would be some doggy waste bags. If you're cheap, you can pick some up in our own county parks and put them in a stocking or give them to anybody you love. Reason for that is now more than ever, walking your dog is a great way for your physical and mental wellness to protect it. And it's a safe activity during COVID. Just socially distance yourself, go to any of our parks, wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from other people. But there's 110,000 dogs in Newcastle County, and we estimate those dogs produce 41 tons of waste per day. That's a lot of dog waste, and they're chock full of bacteria. And that bacteria makes its way to our waterways, and we see issues with bacteria in many of the waterways in Newcastle County. And you can actually go in and you can genetically type the bacteria to figure out if it's coming from geese or from dogs or from humans, and oftentimes it's coming from dogs. So pet waste bags are very important. They're an important thing to do. And always remember to pick up the waste in your backyard as well if you have your dog in the backyard, not just out in the public. So if you have a gardener in the family, I've got 2 recommendations for you. One is a trash can, and the other one is native plants. So the trash can, I'm trying to be funny, but you can take any trash can or any kind of barrel and easily convert it into a rain barrel. Or as the county executive mentioned, we're purchasing rain barrels and we're selling them. We had a small sale in the fall at 3 different events, and we're going to be really upgrading it in the spring. And these are rain barrels that retail at Home Depot for about $130 a piece. And we're able, because of volume you buy, we're able to offer them at a discounted rate of $50. So pay attention for more information on that. Rain barrels collect rainwater from your roof. You'll collect more water than you can possibly know what to do with it, even in the smallest rainstorm. Rainwater is healthier for your plants. There's no chlorine in it. It's healthier than tap water. It's a free source of water, saves money. And for us, it reduces harmful runoff to our streams and waterways. It collects water that would normally just go down into the street, pick up pollutants, and go into waterways. It can reduce flooding. Native plants, big county initiative. They're wonderful. They're a little hard to find. The Delaware Nature Society sells them in the spring. And also, like, there's several garden centers. Lots of the bigger garden centers sell them. They're made to be in Delaware. They're from Delaware. Delaware wildlife eat them. They support more beneficial insects. They keep the food chain going, monarch butterflies, that kind of thing. And they're deeper rooted. They absorb more water and reduce runoff. And for that reason, they help with stormwater runoff and pollution. So we're spending a lot of time in our house now. We want to keep things clean. For those people that are doing the cleaning in the house, there's no better gift than vinegar. Household cleaners sold off the shelf can be hazardous. If you see a label on them, caution, poison, any of those things, the label's there for a reason. And people have found that the area under your sink or in your basement is the most toxic area you'll probably be exposed to in your day-to-day travels. Indoor air quality is often more toxic than outdoor air quality, and it's best to get those cleaners out from underneath your sink. There's simple recipes online. Most involve using vinegar, Castile oil, citrus peels. You can add essential oils for scent. If you need some recipe ideas, we'll probably be posting them on the Clean Stream Champion website. It's a good move. And for us, it prevents these cleaners when you're rinsing the bottles out, when you're done with the bottles, you discharge the stuff down the drain. It goes to the sewer system. Oftentimes it's not treated. I don't know if you remember those products that have microbeads in them, those little plastic beads, they go right through the treatment plant. Fish and other aquatic life eat them. So again, what you're doing in your house is affecting water quality downstream. If you have a home chef in the family, get them a tin can. This could be a big money saver. Fats, oils, and grease is a huge problem for the county, for all other sewer municipalities or sewer treatment authorities. I mean, kitchen grease gets in our sewer systems. They cause over half of our blockages of our sewer system. Most likely, they're going to block your own home plumbing first. The average cost, I looked this up, to unclog a kitchen sink is $109 to $214. And if you think about that, the cost for the county is orders of magnitude more than that. And that all gets reflected, unfortunately, in your sewer bill. So if you help us save money, that helps you save money in the long run. And for water quality, wastewater that backs up in the basements or spills into streams, gets into the water system, causes pollution, causes bacteria problems, and degrades water quality. And finally, for the auto buff, a car wash book. Commercial car washes have equipment in place to treat their wastewater. They send it to the wastewater treatment plant. If you're washing your car in the driveway, it's legal. It's not legal for commercial entities to wash their equipment or cars or anything on their property, but for homeowners, it's still allowed, but not encouraged, because soapy water makes its way into our storm drains without any treatment. Even if it's not raining, it dries on the ground and it gets resuspended during the next rainstorm. It gets washed down the drain. So those drains in the street, think that if you're dumping something down there, you're allowing something to go down there, it might as well be you might as well be pouring it directly into the waterway, because that's what's essentially happening. So other than, washing your car on the lawn, washing your car in the driveway, think about motor oils, pesticides, fertilizers, those other things you're using on your property, and consider what's going to happen when it rains, where they're going to go after that. So as I mentioned, these are all activities that exemplify the Clean Stream Champion program. You can go to cleanstreamchampion.org again to register. And as part of our symposium, anybody that pledges that attended the symposium and they pledge by January 30th, we're going to have 5 drawings for either native plant package, a 1-hour on-site landscape consultation with a landscape architect from the Delaware Nature Society, a blue land green cleaning kit, which uses only safe, non-hazardous products, or one of our earth-minded 50-gallon rain barrels. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Does anyone have any questions for Mike before we move on to our next speaker? Okay, our next speaker is Christopher Curtin. He's a Deputy Attorney General's office, and Chris is our Common Interest Community Ombudsman. Chris's presentation is the overview of the Ombudsman's office and collecting delinquent assessments. Chris, take it away.
Welcome, everybody. I wanted to introduce myself and the Office of the Common Interest Community Ombudsman in the Department of Justice. I only have a few minutes, so I'm only going to go over a few of the duties that I have as Ombudsman and what I do for the office, and focusing, as Janice said, on just a couple of things. Next slide, please. First of all, to introduce the office, the Common Interest Community Ombudsman's Office was enacted in 2014, and I'm the first ombudsman. New line, or next slide. There's only 6 ombudsman's offices in the United States, and in the 4 years I've been in, or the 6 years I've been in this position, I've had a chance to meet all of them, at least by telephone or at national meetings. I think Delaware's has the best ombudsman's office. It's the only one that's in the Attorney General's office anywhere. And that means that I'm the only ombudsman for common interest communities in the United States with subpoena power. The overarching purpose of our office is to assist those in common interest communities to understand their rights and responsibilities and the processes available to them according to the law, regulations, and documents governing their respective common interest communities. Next slide, please. I'm often asked what my overall duties are. And I'm just going to quickly flash through that. They start with education, mediation, investigation, elections. I provide voting procedures and services, and participation on an advisory council. Next one, please. I'm often asked at the beginning of presentations like this, what the heck is a common interest community? You probably all live in one. They encompass condominiums, cooperatives, and residential subdivisions, all of which have several common factors, all have enforceable deed restrictions, all state that membership is mandatory and automatic just by buying into your community. If it's a common interest community, you're automatically a member of the homeowners association. The documents that create the common interest community are the deed restrictions, the declaration of deed restrictions, the certificate of incorporation, the bylaws of the corporation, and any rules and regulations enacted by the community. And they bind all purchasers, and they are unavoidable. Well, something that comes up a lot in questions to me. They all have mandatory lien-based assessments for each owner in the community in order to pay to maintain the community and operate the homeowners association. Next slide, please. What the heck is an ombudsman is the next most common question. Usually it's a government official who receives complaints, reports on complaints, deals with problems fairly, and is intended to assist people in understanding the processes for getting things resolved. The kind of complaints can vary widely. Usually it has to do with violations alleged about somebody on the board that's violating the government governing documents. I don't know if any of you have seen the insurance advertisement on television where Cynthia is going around the community and cutting down plants and mailboxes and whatnot. Those kinds of complaints come to me often, but they're not the only kind. Next one, please. Well, I already stated the purpose, but I put in this slide again for a second time because it's not only states what authority I have in the overarching goal of the community association ombudsman, but there's restrictions on my authority too. I'm limited to looking at complaints that are violations of the law, regulations, or documents governing the respective common interest communities. So we don't handle, criminal complaints or discrimination complaints or anything other than things that have to do with governing the respective community. Some of the statutes that might involve include the DCIOA, the Delaware Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act, and the Uniform or the Unit Properties Act for governing condominiums, and several others. And one of them is the Ombudsman's Act. It creates some rights and responsibilities that every community needs to abide by, whether they're covered by the DCIOA or not. The purpose of the act also, next slide, contains restrictions on what I can do. I cannot provide legal advice, legal representation, legal interpretation, but I can provide general non-binding information without relying on specific facts. Once specific facts creep into the answer to a question, that's legal representation. And as a Deputy Attorney General, I'm prohibited from providing that legal representation. The next one. One of the major duties that I have, and one of the first ones I tried to tackle in 2014 and 2015 was education. The statute specifically requires me to have created a website. And on my website, I hope you'll visit it, but you'll find all of the documents for activating the Ombudsman's office to work on your issues. We provide notice of educational programs. My annual reports, except for the current one, are all posted there. As part of education, I also do informational presentations on the office like this one. And I visit, until the pandemic, I was visiting on average 32 communities each year to make a presentation, usually after hours and usually at an annual meeting. We provide written materials on community governance and conducting effective meetings. Some of them are displayed on our website, but I usually hand them out live at meetings with other documents. And I conduct and listen at meetings to identify community concerns. Next slide, please. The website is a primary educational tool that we use. I don't expect anybody to remember this address, but if you do a search on your web browser for Attorney General of Delaware, you'll get to the Attorney General's homepage. And at the top in the center of the page, there's a link called Initiatives. And farther down the page, there's also a blue bar labeled Initiatives. And if you click on either one of them, you'll see a drop-down list. And the third item on the list, no matter which one you choose, mentions HOA and Ombudsperson. And if you click on that, it'll take you to our Common Interest Community Ombudsperson's web pages. Next slide. On our website, you will find, if you go back one, I just want to show what folks see. Oh, maybe this is the abbreviated version. The website contains a list of things that are available on our website. Maybe click that to the next page now. This helpful resources is from our Ombudsman's website. You can see in 3 columns that there's things like announcements. The second one in the first column on the left, sign up for our email list. I encourage everybody that visits the website to sign up to receive notices. We have about 1,200 people on our email list right now. They'll get a copy of our of my newest annual report, which is being published today. They get announcements of presentations that we're making. We do make presentations that we invite many people to, and get our legislators to invite their constituents as well. I have county specific information. I invite everybody to go to the Newcastle County site. It's got some Newcastle County specific things, including some older program or brochures on having a maintenance corporation and the difference with a a civic association, and some others. And in the last one on that column, information for homeowners and associations, the second item in that is a document prepared by the Community Associations Institute, one of the top educational and informational services in the United States and internationally for information about living in community associations. They gave me permission to include their introduction to community association living. And I encourage everybody to read it. It's easy to understand and cover some otherwise complex matters. In the center column, the important statutes includes a copy of the Ombudsman's Act, a copy of the DCIOA, the Unit Properties Act, several statutes that tend to get lost in Title 25 of the Delaware Code, one about flags, one about including information in the chain of title about additional costs that will be expected to be recovered. And then below that begins the second main topic I wanted to cover tonight about internal dispute resolution. Our statute created, and it's one of only a handful of states that has an internal dispute resolution process. Communities should be using an internal process that includes a written application for to file a complaint. It should be available to everybody in the community, and it should, under our process, cite and quote the statutory or the version of the rules or regulations of your community or deed restriction that you believe may have been violated, and quote it exactly. We've found that we have cut the number of cases that come to our office by a significant number if community members will just read and write out the declaration or bylaws that they believe has been broken by, usually it's by a board. And in doing so, they either realize that they're wrong, or in writing it down in a complaint form, they can demonstrate to the board that the board is wrong. And usually when that is done, one side or the other realizes that they've made a mistake and will correct the problem internally. If internal dispute resolution doesn't solve a problem, that's the first time a person in a community, and it could be the board can do it, or a person living in the community can file a complaint form with our office attaching that internal dispute resolution, and it should be accompanied by the resolution that the board made. Often I see that boards ignore them, or they do not write up a final process, but if they do either of those things, our office will still accept the complaint form and try to get the parties to participate in alternative dispute resolution. One of the largest complaint forms or complaints that we got at the beginning of the creation of my office is the bottom of the second column, collecting delinquent assessments. And can we get to the next slide? The collecting delinquent assessments was the single largest source of complaints that was backpiled in our state, in every county, and it's the same throughout the United States. People did not realize that they could use personal debt lawsuits in Justice of the Peace Court without using a lawyer to collect the debts against the owners, preferring what's in their bylaws and their declarations, and that is filing a lien against the property itself instead of suing the owner of the property. We assembled, when I say we, I mean the advisory council and I developed this collecting delinquent assessments cookbook. It reads like a recipe book on information and access to the forms that you need to use in Justice of the Peace Court. Online, it's available on our website, and the links are live. If you click on a link to something that's in the Justice of the Peace Court's forms section, it'll take you directly to that link. We did prepare paper versions, but I'm afraid we've distributed all of those, but we are working on a paper version of the appendix to the collections book. And I've assisted some attorneys who are assisting me in collecting delinquent assessments from communities that were on the verge of going under because they were not collecting enough to maintain their septic systems in Sussex County. Public Health was about to close them down. I testified in 4 of them in one day, one after the next, about these procedures in my office. And the court ordered, before we left the courthouse, each of the defendants in those 4 cases to pay. And what astonished me was, on our way out, each of the defendants who I had just testified against thanked me for the efforts at collecting this information and seeing that their community was going to be operated in a functional way because of collecting association assessments that many in their communities were not paying. We have hosted free workshops in each county from 2018 through 2019, and had planned more in 2020 until the pandemic set in which we presented this manual as the working document at the presentation, but we also presented a Justice of the Peace who explained it was always it was different in each county, but each Justice of the Peace explained how things worked in their courtrooms. And we did a mock trial using a Justice of the Peace and members of our advisory council, one an attorney and one as a lay person, since Delaware allows, one of the few states that allows an appearance in Justice of the Peace Court by a representative of a community who is not a lawyer, just by filing a simple form. And so this can be done without the assistance of an attorney, although I find that the results can be even better when an attorney is involved. And most of the governing documents I read show that the attorney that represents a community is able to recover their attorney's fees as part of the judgment against the delinquent homeowner. The next one, please. The mediation section is probably the second most important, but the most underutilized of the tasks that I have. I also mentioned a little bit about the internal disputes first. Complaints that are unresolved internally can be reviewed by my office, and it was only me, but now I have a financial investigator who was able to look at some of these, especially if they involve finances. In an appropriate case, when it comes to our office, I'm allowed to investigate, and I often do refer cases that come to my office through the Ombudsman's complaint process to other agencies. For example, I worked on a big communities problem last year and into this year, where I had to refer to several different offices. There was some consumer protection referrals that needed to be made because the sales information was misrepresenting some of the things in the sale of the real estate, and the Consumer Fraud Act does apply to misrepresentations in connection with the sale or advertisement of real estate under the definition of merchandise. I often refer matters involving insurance claims to the Department of Insurance, and I spoke to a gentleman today who had a complaint that needed to be referred to the Department of a bank commissioner for further investigation to resolve the complaint. And worst of all, I have encountered a number of instances of theft from homeowner association funds, and it's usually by a board member or some board members, and in some cases, a group of board members, and I've referred them to our new white collar crime unit, which is within my division, the Fraud and Consumer Protection Division, in houses both investor protection, the consumer protection unit, the division of mediation services, community mediation services, where me and the manufactured housing ombudsman reside. And now we have a white collar crime unit that has prosecuted several and is investigating several larger thefts from community associations, some of them amounting to into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some in the smaller communities to $30,000 or $40,000, which in some cases constitutes the entire amount of their budget for a whole year. So we're working on a number of different aspects of that. Next one. Can we have the next slide, please? Oh, there it is. No, go back one. When complaints come into our office, we offer alternative dispute resolution, and we can offer mediation, arbitration, even binding arbitration, either before or after an internal dispute complaint has been filed, whenever the parties agree in writing. Both of these formats are underutilized. I encourage in every case that comes to my attention that the parties participate in mediation or arbitration, especially binding arbitration, because that puts an end to a dispute without having to go to court. I find that boards are particularly reluctant to participate in mediation or arbitration through my office. So, and some homeowners don't want the Attorney General's office messing in their business either. So I've made an arrangement with the Court of Common Pleas Community Mediation Program that they will accept for mediation for free things that are referred from our office as a law enforcement office. Their mediator is one of the best ones I encountered when I was in private practice, and she does a tremendous job in each county. But in contrast to the Attorney General's office ombudsman, I'm required by statute to charge fees, and the CCP program is required to be free. We are also working for or with the University of Delaware's Biden School of Public Policy to create a program, extend their program for dispute resolution to train people in homeowners associations to handle mediation or simply meet and confer, a very simplified, low pressure way of resolving complaints one-on-one instead of through full board hearings at homeowners associations. Now we're ready for the next slide. I know you can't see the internal dispute complaint form that I have the first page of on this, but it is on our website at a link for procedure for filing a complaint. And this is the one that requires the use of internal written form complaints. If a community does not have its own version of an internal written form complaint, it must use the Ombudsman's form, and this is it. And when you get a chance to look at it, you'll see that as I described, it requires that the complaint be briefly described, then the complainant has to cite, that is, give the name of the document that's been violated and its paragraph number, and then actually quote what has been violated, and then explain it and attach any evidence about it. That usually allows for a board to a solid basis for either meeting and conferring, which is the most effective way to resolve complaints internally, or to set it down for a hearing, which almost never works, according to experts that I've discussed in a couple of other states that have this kind of internal dispute resolution form. Next slide, please. The statute requires that before a complaint can be filed with the Ombudsman's office, this process, this internal dispute resolution process, must be used before I can review it. And it's just experiential, but it's my opinion that this overwhelmingly resolves the majority of complaints between homeowners and their boards. It requires the use of the statutory process only if there is no association process, but it does allow a written complaint to the board and notice and opportunity to be heard by the witnesses should be part of not only my process, this IDR process, but any process given for a community. Next slide, please. The complaint is for violations of law, declaration, certificate of incorporation, bylaws, or rules governing a community. That means it does not apply to criminal complaints or things that are not involved in governing a community, like traffic complaints, and it doesn't allow me or most communities to deal with bias or human rights complaints. There's no reason that they can't be, that my form can't be used for those. It's just not, this is not a trigger for having my office review it. When a complaint comes in that touches on those, I will try to find a place to refer it, however. Again, it must cite and quote the rule that was violated and must explain the facts of the violation. I get so many complaints that have met this that I look very carefully to see that these requirements have been satisfied. So because it allows for quicker resolution, a quicker determination whether the board or the developer will consent to mediation or arbitration. And if not, then referral, or occasionally I can review a complaint that meets the criteria of dealing only with a governing document in the community. Next slide, please. These same complaints authorize me to investigate. I always contact the board or the party being complained about for its version and anything they want us to consider in resolving their complaint. Sometimes when the parties will not agree to mediation or arbitration, I have been known to write a report or a letter and mail it by snail mail to every member of the community and invite them to a meeting that I conduct. It's going to have to be, since the pandemic, a Zoom meeting, and make a presentation about the complaint and the problems that I have seen and the concerns it raises in my view as ombudsman. But I still cannot give legal advice, legal interpretation, or what advice on what's in the best interest of the community. Although sometimes I have had to say, this is a construction defect. Nobody in the Department of Justice can help with that. You should immediately consult a private practice lawyer because you're facing statute of repose or statute of limitations problems that may bar you from a recovery in your action. I can take any action or decline any action, and I can provide or offer at least mediation or arbitration, and do in virtually every case. When I investigate, I do issue subpoenas. I get an awful lot of complaints in the last couple of years that boards are not providing access to governing documents sometimes, but more importantly, financial books and records that they are required to keep and required to produce on 5 days written notice, whether the statute is the Delaware Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act or the Division of Corporations at Section 228 of the General Corporation Law. Those documents have to be provided, and it's a red flag to me when a corporation or maintenance corporation or HOA or condominium association refuses that access that's required by law. And in some cases, I have subpoenaed those documents to see if there are grounds to further investigate for theft. And I unfortunately have found theft every year and in every county. And we've prosecuted and convicted several homeowner association directors, and several more are under investigation now. Some of them get fairly complex. So I'm glad that most of them can be turned over to the white collar crime division. I've also referred them to other agencies on occasion. Next slide. I think that's the limit of my time and remarks. Were there questions that anybody wants to pose to me? I see it looks like there's some down there.
Yes, we do have some, Chris. We got quite a handful, actually. The first couple of questions we have come from a Kevin Kleinhomer, who also I saw raised his hand at one point. Mr. Kleinhomer, if you would prefer to ask your question in person, you want to raise your hand, I can. Otherwise, I'll start reading off his question regarding lien-based mandatory dues. He is asking what happens when you have a lawyer who knows it is unenforceable, can only go back 3 years, and knows at most he will have to pay 3 years when he finally moves out.
Well, I hope you will pick up a copy of the collection delinquent assessments. It's explained in there that you can reactivate a loan that is apparently expired, and it's renewable for 10 years at a time. Also, I found a case that's cited in the collections of delinquent assessments that says that since the declarations of deed restrictions are usually documents under seal, that the statute of limitations for suing under them against the person is 20 years. So there should be no reason to, and there should be no reason anyway to delay on acting on any lien, even for as long as 3 years. If it gets to be $1,500, you should be going to the Justice of the Peace Court. But I hope you understand there are ways to get around the 3-year expiration of a Kiowa lien.
Okay, and his second question was, what about the lack of enforcement of deed restrictions? If they are not enforced or parts are not for a few years, are they still valid?
They can be waived, but again, there is a special jurisdiction in the Court of Chancery for interpretation and enforcement of deed restrictions. You file a complaint in Chancery Court. The Chancery Court orders mediation, something I can't do even under the Ombudsman's Act. And if mediation does not resolve it, the Chancery Court will order an expedited trial in these matters, and they do it many times a year. They can award attorney's fees if it has to go to trial that have to be paid by the losing party. But the opinions that the Chancery Court writes are wonderful and instructive to homeowners associations and their boards. And I cite them many times, but they go both ways. They really, they apply the same law on interpreting governing documents like deed restrictions and bylaws that they apply in their work as the foremost corporations court in the United States.
Okay. From Jerry Huller, we have, can you assist in mediating issues between communities, such as intrusion into property lines?
I've taken the position that the language of the Ombudsman's Act is broad enough that I can mediate pretty much anything that has to do with governance, and would be willing to tackle that. I suspect the parties would not want me to mediate that problem, but I would certainly offer to do it, understanding that the parties will be responsible for fees that I'm required to charge to offset the cost of that service. If there is a situation like that, I would be happy to try to refer it to the Court of Common Pleas Community Mediation Service, which is free.
Okay. I have another question that was submitted anonymously. First, a copy of the presentations will be emailed to registered participants. We will be putting a copy of all of these presentations along with the webinar recording on the Stormwater website. That's stormwater.newcastlede.gov. It'll be in the resource section under stormwater management. The second question this person has is, if there is an issue with a homeowner not abiding with a deed restriction, your office will assist with mediation to resolve the problem?
We will offer mediation either if the parties agree in writing, and we have forms of agreement on our website, and try to schedule them as soon as we have agreement. But if I think that the best way to handle it is to first use the internal process and see if you can get it handled internally. If not, then you can attach that to a complaint to our office, and we will try to get it mediated. I have to say, though, I'm really disappointed that I'm not doing, I'd love to be tied up in mediation all day long, but people are not, boards in particular, are reluctant to use our services. However, I've been able to refer several to the Court of Common Pleas Community Mediation Program within the last year. She's not always able to resolve them either, but some of them have been resolved at no cost to the owners or the participants, simply because I'm allowed to refer them to a free service with a highly talented mediator.
Thank you. Mr. Kravitz is asking if all of this applies to maintenance corporations as well.
Yes, maintenance corporations are required by Newcastle County, and they are homeowners associations. They are the same thing. So everything I've said tonight also applies to maintenance corporations, because you can just substitute homeowners association or property owners association or just community association, and it will mean the same thing as maintenance corporation.
He would also like to know if a home that burned down a year ago in his community and still has not been rebuilt as an eyesore would fall under your jurisdiction.
I'm afraid it would not, unless you can point to a specific rebuilding requirement of the declaration or bylaws. And I have seen some that touch on that stuff. But if it's taking that long, I think you should pursue other resources.
We have another anonymous question. And he's says that we found that the lien is only enforceable if the property is being sold. If the lien filed, they understand that the corporation cannot collect until the property is sold, or the lien will prohibit sale of the property.
That's the most common way that liens are collected, is by sale, but it takes forever for that to happen. People can live in a house for 30 years. And a suit for foreclosure can be filed in order to force the sale, or which will result in the collection of the lien. And some banks will step forward if a suit is filed and pay the lien for delinquent assessments in order to preserve their mortgage rights in the house. So that's not the only way, it's just one of the ways. And the most effective way, I think time and again, has been shown to use a personal debt action against the delinquent owner and file it in Justice of the Peace Court if it's below $15,000, or in Court of Common Pleas if it's more than $15,000. And the personal debt action goes much more quickly and results in a judgment against the person that can also be transferred to any real estate owned by the delinquent owner.
And then our final question on here, Mr. Walker asks, can you please share what your fees are, or what a total cost in a day, and how many IDRs you do?
I don't do IDRs. They are submitted to the board. They are attached to the complaint forms that come to my office, and without one, I won't accept a complaint form. But we have a backlog of more than 150 complaints for review, and just me to do it. So there's a long time. So I try to push things into mediation and arbitration as quickly as possible. And what was the first part of that question?
Can you please share what your fees are and what a typical total cost might be?
My statute requires me to charge what would cover the cost, and the state management and budget office sets a deputy attorney general fee for these purposes as at $100 an hour. So I can't say how long it will take. I've had some mediations that go on for a few hours in a first meeting, and then phone call after phone call after phone call for months. And each side had to pay $1,500 in that case. I also have to, I charge the same in election services, and our election services are usually provided by the Department of Elections, using the same things that the same machine readable ballots and machine counting that we just experienced in the last election. And I think a combined election for a couple of hundred home community is somewhere around $3,000.
We have a comment from Ms. Sma. She said, we actually followed the process outlined by the ombudsman, almost put a lien on a delinquent household. Last time we showed the paperwork that we were about to file, the household paid the dues. So I think she wants to give her testimony that it does work. And then last question, I believe, do do you recommend sheriff sales in collecting delinquent funds?
That sheriff sale is a possibility in any collection action. Once a debt is reduced to judgment in a civil debt action against the person, then it can be transferred to the Superior Court's docket, and all of the processes for collection are available then. Putting it, I don't think you can go directly to sheriff's sale without due process, which involves the courts. So again, I would refer that back to the Justice of the Peace Court for a judgment on against the debt owner, but that can be transferred to the property, and the property can be sold at a sheriff's sale. Yes, it's expensive and time consuming though.
That seems to be all the questions that we have had. If there are no more, I think.
I get emails and phone calls every day of the year. I answered on the average 700 emails with substantive questions in the last 3 years. And I'm happy to hear from anybody who would like to email me a question or request a copy of the annual report that I'm about to publish.
Chris,
Yes.
I have a question that was asked of me before the seminar. Can a maintenance corporation contact your office, and could you do a webinar for individual maintenance corporations to answer their questions? Or
Yes.
will you be hosting a forum for maintenance corporations?
In the last few years and before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of that. 30 times a year, I would be out at some meeting for a maintenance corporation or an HOA, making this presentation and answering other kinds of targeted questions. This year and since the pandemic, I've only been able to do it by Zoom. I hope you can't tell, but I'm of a certain age that puts me at a higher risk if I get COVID. So I'm under instruction not to take any risks. So everything I do these days is by Zoom, and I'm scheduling some now. So I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. A lot of information you shared this evening. And as Chris said, please contact his office if you have additional questions. And the presentations will be online on our stormwater website mid to end of next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker we have is Sara Esposito from DelDOT. I apologize. My dog is announcing someone at the door. Sorry. Sara Esposito is with DelDOT, NPDES Program Manager. And Sara's presentation this evening is Making Delaware Clean Again Through Pollution Prevention. Sara?
Yes. Hello.
You're up. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Good evening, everyone. As Janice mentioned, I'm Sara Esposito with the DelDOT's NPDES program. I'm going to be switching gears and kind of tailing back to Mike Harris's intro presentation and focusing on ways that DelDOT, our partners, and you can help prevent pollution prevention. So Wally here, our mascot for DelDOT, is going to remind you to remember these 2 P's, pollution prevention. In a couple slides, you're going to be wondering why we spelt a certain word with 2 P's, and that's the reason why, pollution prevention. Oh, and just focusing on this pretty picture, this is one of my favorite ones taken of Route 1 in the fall, and it's just a nice reminder of how we can how we strive to balance our human infrastructure with a healthy environment. Okay, so now First, I'd like to mention, I will be saying we a lot, and for the most part, I mean it in terms of DelDOT, but I also mean it in terms of all our partners. We do things hand in hand with the county. We work closely with them to resolve various pollution and drainage matters. We also work closely with our other Phase 1 MS4 partners, which are listed below: Town of Newport, City of Newcastle, the City of Wilmington, Delaware City, the Town of Bellefonte, and the Town of Ellesmere. We all have similar pollution prevention goals that are written in our permits from DENREC. We also work closely with the Phase 2 MS4 communities, which are the City of Newark, the University of Delaware, Town of Middletown, and the City of Dover. They have a slightly less stringent permit requirements, but they also work very similarly, doing various pollution prevention goals. So the problem is, unfortunately, many people intentionally, and then a lot of people unintentionally pollute our waterways. I would say most people unintentionally throughout the year pollute our waterways, even though they may think that they're good stewards of the land. Everything on the land eventually washes into our rivers or streams, and if it doesn't do that, then it enters into our groundwater. When rain hits our roof, our lawn, our driveways, it picks up any pollution, whether that be trash, chemicals, or fertilizers, and brings that down into the roadway, which enters into our storm drain, and those directly discharge into our waterways, our streams and rivers. So I'm gonna show two quick videos. The first one basically animates the image on the right, and that's from the City of Wilmington in North Carolina. And then the second one will talk about various ways that people can help and why not to pollute. So give me 1 second to switch gears. Oops, that's actually the next one. Okay, and this is the second video.
Just where does all our rain go? In nature, trees, plants, and earth help absorb the rain slowly and break down pollutants, naturally refilling our groundwater and keeping our waterways healthy. But roads, driveways, and buildings don't absorb water. This forces rain into storm sewers, where it drains directly into rivers, creeks, or the ocean. When they get too much water, this can act like a fire hose, causing erosion and stirring up sediment that smothers fish eggs and makes it hard for fish to breathe. Urban rainwater also picks up pollution, like oil on the road, pesticides, dog poop, and garbage that can wind up in our waters and harm our aquatic life. So what can you do? Create a rain-friendly yard that helps water soak into the ground by adding some extra topsoil. Plant a tree. Build a rain garden. And since nothing gets through regular asphalt, use paving stones or gravel to allow water to drip through driveways and sidewalks. Reduce the pollution that goes into stormwater by disposing of household chemicals at a recycling depot. Use less fertilizer and avoid pesticides. Pick up after your pet and put garbage where it belongs. Wash your car at a commercial car wash where water will be sent to a wastewater treatment plant. The more you do, the less will go down our storm drains and end up in our local waters. And remember, only rain should go down the drain.
So that second video was a great segue into many of the topics that I'm going to be covering and that Mike touched on earlier. Reasons not to pollute and ways that you can help. So pollution comes in various forms, some of which are fertilizer or nitrogen and phosphorus, which are the key components of fertilizer. Waste, both animal and human waste. Paint, detergents, sediment, trash, and oil and grease. Traditional stormwater management facilities primarily focus on fertilizer and sediment as their key function for cleaning. But we're here tonight going to focus on the other topics that surround the fertilizer and sediment icons. So, you know, why is clean water important? Hopefully these reasons are self-evident, but I feel like a lot of people still choose to ignore them or don't think about them. One of the most important is our drinking water. Most of Newcastle County gets their drinking water straight from surface water sources from our rivers, and Kent and Sussex County receives most of theirs through groundwater. And both surface water and groundwater are easily polluted through human actions. The second is our ecosystem. The animals and plants depend on clean water and clean land. And also the fact that you know, the pollution that we send into our waterways, animals can then absorb or eat, and then we ingest that. So most of our waterways have limitations on how much shellfish or fish you can consume in a year due to those health risks. And then also active and passive recreation. Our waterways are vital tourism and recreation needs for our residents and for our tourists. It stimulates our economy. So what are we doing to help? We screen 20% of all of our outfalls, which is the end of a pipe run during dry weather, to determine if there's any pollution. We do this in dry weather when it hasn't been raining, because then it can tell us if water is flowing in those pipes and it hasn't been raining, then there's something going on. Every once, it could be just groundwater that's entering into the pipe, but a lot of times it's also either septic systems that have been hooked up or a sump pump that is connected to a washing machine or a basement sink and sending that dirty water into our stormwater. In the last 6 years, we've investigated over 10,000 outfalls in Newcastle County to make sure that they are flowing clean. If they're not flowing clean, we'll collect a sample as shown here, analyze it, and then trace back and try to figure out the source and resolve that illicit discharge or that illegal connection. We also provide a hotline for residents to call in anonymously to report pollution that they might see in their community or out while they're driving or while they're at work. That number is 302-STOP-IT. And those are the 2 Ps that I was referring to previously, pollution prevention. So we encourage anyone, if you see something that could be affecting our waterways, to call in. We will not disclose the person's name when we follow up with the, once we find who has contributed that pollution, we will not disclose who the original caller was. But we either ourselves go out and investigate, or oftentimes we have our consultant KCI go out and investigate and collect a water sample if necessary. And sometimes it's, we don't need a water sample to prove that there's trash in a catch basin. But if it is soapy water, then we'll collect a sample and have it analyzed in a lab if necessary. And then depending on the severity of the case, it will either be placed on a watch list, so we will go back and check, especially if we can't find the problem that the resident had called in, then we'll place it on our watch list so we can follow back up. If we do find something wrong, a lot of times we'll place door hangers on the front doors of residents in the community to educate them on what we found and why not to do that. Sometimes we don't exactly know which homeowner in the residence caused the violation. Even if we find something in a catch basin in front of a house, we don't want to necessarily assume that the house closest to that catch basin was the violator. So we'll do a door hanger campaign to educate kind of the surrounding area. But sometimes we do know specifically who caused the pollution, whether it be residential or commercial. And that's when DelDOT and the county will work together and issue a notice of violation and see that the actions are resolved. So on the right here is an ad that we used this spring and fall on Google Ads. So while you're browsing on the internet, you might have come across our ad. And then I'm going to show a quick animated version of it as well. It doesn't have any sound. It's pretty short. So here it goes. Okay, so again, that's just encouraging you to call 302 stop it. If you see anything in our water or in your curb or catch basins that shouldn't be there. Because like Mike mentioned earlier, our catch basins, those grates that go down into the ground in your street, they connect directly into streams and rivers. Sometimes they might go into a stormwater pond first, but that stormwater pond discharges right into a stream or river. We also spend a lot of time doing public education outreach. We participate in public events such as stream cleanups, community days, and educational programs. Obviously, this year has been pretty difficult doing that. So we also just do traditional advertising online or in newspapers, et cetera. We educate on proper lawn care, not to fertilize right before it rains, because the grass won't have a chance to absorb the fertilizer and it'll just wash away into our water. And also to fertilize in the fall. A lot of people don't realize that that is the most beneficial time to fertilize, because that's when the grass will absorb the most amount of the fertilizer and apply it to its roots. And healthy roots mean healthy lawn in the spring. In the springtime, the grass doesn't absorb as much of the fertilizer, therefore more of it runs off, and it can cause havoc in our waterways, increase algae growth in our water. We also educate on hazardous household waste, such as used motor oil. And someone might change their oil in their garage or driveway in their car and then not know what to do with that used oil and walk down to the road and dump it into the catch basin. You know, some people think that the catch basins are connected to a wastewater treatment plant, but that is not the case. As you know, we mentioned several times, they go directly into our rivers and cause pollution. Same thing with paints. You know, don't wash it off on your lawn or right into the catch basin. Wash in your sink, which would go to a treatment plant. We educate on trash itself. You know, we still find staggering amounts of trash on our roadways. DelDOT has several trash programs, from Adopt a Highway and Worker Day Earn a Pay programs to help reduce the amount of trash on our streets, but it's still staggering the amount that we collect. And trash also does include cigarette butts, though tiny. They all add up, and contain carcinogens that aren't good for our environment. And as you know, Mike mentioned previously, dog waste. And again, although small, it all adds up. And dog waste contains a lot of bacteria and also a lot of excess nitrogen, which acts as a fertilizer in our water, causing increased algae. And you know, one of the biggest reasons we hear on why not to scoop the poop is because animal waste is natural. Dogs are natural. It's natural for my pet to poop. And although it is a natural bodily function, it's not natural the amount of dogs that we have. This slide shows some dog waste by the numbers, and one of them is that in a natural ecosystem, there would be about 2 dogs per square mile. And in most urban settings, there's about 125 dogs per square mile. So that's a lot of excess waste that is generated, which can cause havoc on an ecosystem. A lot of people have come to the realization that they do need to scoop the poop, mostly because they don't want to you know, piss off their, for lack of a better term, piss off their neighbors. You know, they recognize that they need to remove their dog's waste if their dog went to the bathroom on their neighbor's lawn. So they pick it up, put it in the bag, and then they walk to the nearest catch basin and drop the bag into the catch basin instead of bringing it home in their trash. And then what happens, those bags collect over time. Here's 3 of them kind of zoomed in a catch basin. And then it rains, you know, a big heavy rainstorm comes through and flushes all those collected bags through our storm drain network, and they get deposited in our waterways. This happens to be a ditch, but that ditch just downstream of it is a, you know, more, you know, a regular stream that you would think of. So not only do we have the harmful effects of the dog waste in our waterways, but now we also added plastic into the system. So please scoop your poop and bring it home and put it in your trash so it can go to the landfill. On that same kind of unpleasant topic, we've seen it all, and this picture does not show rust. This was a illicit sanitary sewer connection or septic connection into our storm drain network that we were able to track back and resolve. And oftentimes it's a pipe coming into our storm drain network that's not supposed to be there. So we inventory and re-inspect a lot of our storm drain infrastructure, and we look for illicit discharge, such as this pipe shown in the picture. Other examples of what we come across would be excessive amounts of cigarette butts in a catch basin. For this example, we would distribute door hangers in the surrounding area, educating the community on what we found. We also see excessive amounts of trash and waste, or grass clippings and leaves. And the leaves and the grass clippings are kind of a fine line. If it's natural, if it's, you know, just leaves falling in the fall, not purposely blown into the street, then that wouldn't, you know, be a need to call or write in. If a homeowner's, you know, cutting the last strip of their front lawn next to the sidewalk or roadway, and a little bit of the clippings fall in, that wouldn't be a reason to call. But purposefully blowing all their clippings and all their leaves into the street and into the storm drain, that would be a reason to call the 302 Stop It hotline, and we would come and investigate. Other examples of what we've seen is paint. Someone painting the exterior of their house, or there mailbox or whatever, painting, and they don't know what to do with the excess, so they come to the storm drain and dump it in. So here's a picture of white paint, and we also have seen blue paint, and I'm sure we've seen the whole spectrum of colors. We also see a lot of construction waste. This photo here was from someone that was doing a backyard improvement project, and they had a lot of disturbed soil in their backyard. And as the trucks were leaving or as it rained, that soil from their backyard was washing off into the street. So we followed up with that. And similarly, this was a concrete washout. Someone had a new concrete patio put in their backyard, or sidewalk on leading to their front door, etc. And the excess concrete was washed out into the curb, which makes its way down into the catch basin and then into our streams. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what we do to try to stop pollution and ways that you can help. And again, and that most prominent ways by calling 302 Stop It, so we can investigate and stop the pollution that's found. And my contact information is there, as well as the general DelDOT contact information. So with that, I will end and take any questions that anyone might have.
Hey, Sarah, we do have some questions that have come in. Let's see. Mr. Haller asked if Newcastle County would help with communities with their geese problem, geese hanging out in the community by a wet pond, because geese poop can be a significant contributor to pollution in HOAs when the rain washes parts of it down the drains.
Yes, so I can't speak for the county themselves, but I think they would echo the same sentiments that to try to leave as much of a natural buffer around the pond as possible. The geese like easy access into the pond. So when you have a mowed grass line straight to the water's edge, that's like the ideal setting for geese. So if you can leave more of a natural buffer, it may not fully solve the problem, but it will help deter the geese, plus provide other benefits. It'll help stabilize your pond banks. I would recommend that for starters. If you've already done that and you still have a geese problem, then maybe reach out to the county to see what else can be done.
Okay. Another question that we have is, would a resident that is constantly washing their cars in their driveways qualify for investigation? By constantly, I'm talking about 2 to 3 times a week.
I would think so. I mean, that sounds fairly excessive, especially if they're using soaps every time, because that would lead directly into the storm drain. So I would recommend that you call 302 Stop It, and we could follow up appropriately, whether that's DelDOT or the county.
And then I believe the final question that I have is about swimming pool water. I'm assuming we're talking about the discharge of swimming pool water.
Yes. Swimming pool, kind of can speak me if I'm wrong, but swimming pool water is allowed as long as it has been properly dechlorinated. So once, and I don't, off the top of my head, I do not recall what the time period for dechlorination is. I think it's a couple days. I mean, it's not forever, but a few days of dechlorination, by not adding any additional chlorine, and then it's safe to discharge.
Okay. I do have somebody who is raising their hand to ask a question. Patricia Abernathy, hold on one second, and I will give her the option to unmute. Okay, go ahead.
Patty here.
Hi.
I appreciate your helpfulness and ideas. I'm still looking for what the county might do to better equalize the payment for cleaning the stormwater or cleaning water in the streets. The maintenance corporations pay extra money to do that, but other developments do not yet. So I'm looking to see where we are, whether you have the answer or someone else, or take it to whomever it needs to go to, so that we can have more money to help clean the water. Because right now there are people that don't pay anything to clean their water. Thank you.
So I will defer that if someone from the county wants to unmute the answer.
Patty, could you, I apologize, could you repeat your question one more time to make sure I understand what you're asking?
I'm looking to see how other homeowners in communities that do not have the regulations to maintain stormwater management facilities that help to clean water, how these other communities can help to pay to clean water in the county, eventually the state. How can we get all people to do that? Whether it's through a stormwater management tax or something like that, so that we can equalize it. Because those of us who pay extra aren't getting any benefit of tax write-off, but we are helping the environment. So if we had more money, we could further help that environment. Thank you.
So you're referring to civic associations that possibly have county-owned stormwater management facilities versus private communities that have private open space, and the residents and those maintenance corporations pay to maintain their stormwater facilities. What, if I understand you, what you're looking at, hopefully someday, would be a stormwater utility where the cost of stormwater maintenance would be spread out. That's way above me. That's something that the administration with the county and state would have to discuss. And I think you would be the perfect person, and I'm sure you have been talking to
Stop
them.
it, Janice. Thank you.
Patty, I hear you. You and I, we have talked about this many times, and I agree.
And Janice,
But-
there's a follow-up here from Irene Recuber, who's saying, and just to, I think, reinforce what Patty was saying, that she says, I think Patty means that those communities that have stormwater management systems spend lots of money keeping them in good shape, or older communities that don't pay anything. And is there any recourse?
Right, the newer communities would be maintenance corporations. The older communities would be civic associations. We do have older communities that have stormwater facilities, but again, that answer is not going to be decided tonight. That is something that has to be ongoing conversations with county and state legislators. And Patty, you're the right one to keep that moving.
Irene is too. That's Irene Recuber.
Okay, well, thank you for your question, Patty. And I think we have a couple more here showing up. An anonymous question says, the city of Wilmington removes leaves in the fall going from neighborhood to neighborhood. Sometimes homeowners do not have the time, the blowing of their leaves onto a city road. Therefore, the leaves do not get removed and blow to storm drains, neighborhood residents, etc. Will the city of Wilmington perform a sweep to pick up missed fall leaves? Why doesn't Newcastle County implement a similar program to assist homeowners with fall leaf removal?
Can weigh in on this. We can't, we don't have control of the city of Wilmington. I would suggest putting in, going on to the city's website and seeing if they'll come in and do a missed leaf pickup. I like answering this question because the county has nothing to do with the roadways, but there is somebody on the phone that, or on the call that works for the agency that does maintain the road. So I'll kick it to Sara.
I've only been with DelDOT for 3 years, but I have never heard of, I have not heard of a mentioned leaf collection yet. I think that would, the amount of public streets that we're talking about, I think that would overwhelm our forces to go out and provide a leaf collection operation, unfortunately.
Okay. Just a statement from an attendee. I'm against another tax. Don't purchase a home in a community with this requirement if you don't want the cost covered in our dues. Then we do have one more question from Mr. Strauss. Are there any funds available for maintenance corporations to help pay to keep piping clean leading to outfalls?
There is the Community Transportation Fund, or CTF fund, that uses legislative funds to assist communities. So I would suggest reaching out to your legislator and seeing if your community would be applicable to receive those funds.
Okay, that looks like that was the last question we had. I thought I saw a hand raised, but it appears to have been lowered. Oh, one more. Why would DelDOT not partner with Newcastle County for leaf removal? The city of Wilmington has lots of streets, but of course not as many as the county.
It's something to talk about in the future. I haven't heard it mentioned yet. Again, like you echoed, the county and DelDOT collectively throughout the state does have a lot more streets to maintain than just Wilmington, but it's certainly something that could be discussed in the future.
Okay, I think that appears to be the end of the questions. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you, Sara, very much for your information. And our next speaker is Ellie Mortazavi, our Stormwater Program Coordinator for Newcastle County. And Ellie's presentation is titled Annual Stormwater Management Maintenance Program. Ellie?
Thank you, Janice, and thank you everyone who are with us and joining us tonight for this webinar. It was great that if we had it in person as other previous years, but because of everything going on, I think it's still a great opportunity that we can hold these meetings and go over of some of the useful information that we can share with you guys, and also answer any questions that you might have in reference to different programs that we present. I'm going to talk about our stormwater management maintenance program for the homeowner association and residential communities. If you go to the next slide, the first thing that I want to mention and Mike briefly touched on this, that why Newcastle County even doing this. There are different reasons. One is, first of all, we are delegated by the state under their program to do plan review, construction inspection, and post-construction inspection of these stormwater management facilities. The first two items, which are the plan review and construction inspections, the Department of Land Use in Newcastle County is in charge of doing those two, and then for the new construction. And when the new construction is completed and the site is ready to go and the certificate of occupancy is being issued, then they send us all the information, and that's when our program for the post-construction inspection starts, and that facility gets added to our inventory. The other reason is we are also obligated under by the federal government through our NPDES permit, which was issued to us back in 2013. And Newcastle County and DelDOT, there are the principal permittees in order to implement this permit, as well as 5 co-permittees, which are Bellefonte, Ellesmere, Newport, Delaware City, and City of Newcastle. As Sara explained, and Mike also mentioned, most of the roadways in Newcastle County are owned and maintained by DelDOT, as well as their drainage systems. So when we speak about the roads and the drainage systems and conveyance system and runoff coming off the roads, those are all belong to DelDOT. But when it comes to the stormwater management facilities in commercial, residential communities and commercial industrial sites, then they are the ones that we go out for inspections and provide the inspection report. Next slide, please. As part of the NPDES permit, there are 8 measures noted on the permit: public education and public involvement, as well as illicit discharge detection and elimination, which Sara explained in details about that measure. Stormwater during construction, which, as I said, it's been done by Department of Land Use. They are the ones that oversee the construction sites, as well as reviewing the plans and construction plans, design plans. And then when it's completed, they send all the information to us, and that's when it's for the post-construction stormwater management inspections that we get involved. We also do good housekeeping for our own facilities and county-owned properties, as well as checking out the industrial sites. Also, we have to develop a watershed priority list and pick watersheds in Newcastle County and develop the water quality improvement plans for the ones that we picked, and as well as mapping all the stormwater infrastructures facilities on the GIS. So if you go to the next slide, our stormwater section, as most of you, I'm sure you're familiar with and either have heard or worked with us, we update our stormwater management facilities inventory annually. We also conduct the stormwater management facilities inspections minimum once a year. We also perform open space inspections for the newer communities. For example, if there is a residential communities that is under construction, when the construction gets to the certain limit, when it's like about 75 to 90% of the kind of construction is completed, that's when that we go out to inspect the open space as well as the stormwater management facilities and make sure they are built according to the design, and make sure that everything is maintained properly before they turn it over to the maintenance corporation. We also register maintenance corporations and collect their maintenance logs. We also, the other task that we do, maintaining and prioritizing the county major list of these BMPs and stormwater management facilities when they get added to the major list for the future retrofit or reconstruction, and we are going to fix them. Also managing the budget for the major projects, reviewing engineering plans for major projects, for maintenance projects and retrofit projects, as well as managing the projects from the bidding process through the construction until they're completed. Any stormwater related retrofit and maintenance projects, I should say. Next slide, please. Our 2020 stormwater management inventory. As I mentioned, when land use approves all the plans and the construction is completed, they send us as-built information, and that triggers our program for that new facility to be added on to our inventory. We have, for 2020, we have had close to 2,500 stormwater management facilities, and that number is increasing every year. We usually update our inventory once or twice a year with the newer sites, and my prediction for 2021, our inventory will be, actually the number is going to go up to more than close to 2,600 facilities for next year inspections. Out of this total number of 2,470, there are about more than 1,700 of those belong to the commercial and the industrial owners and sites. And we have 758 stormwater management facilities located at residential communities. Stormwater management facilities examples are some like ponds, wet pond, dry ponds, bioretention areas, bioswales, constructed wetlands, green roofs, underground systems, filter strip, and sand filters. Next slide, please. This is an example of our GIS map. We use the CityWorks database that the software CityWorks that actually it's the GIS mapped that shows all our stormwater management facilities. We add every stormwater management facilities to our map with all the associated information as far as what type of facility, where is the location, and tons of other information that we usually get it from the plans from Department of Land Use. In the next slide, we actually, it's a stormwater annual inspection. What is the stormwater annual inspections? Again, as I mentioned, we have to do these inspections minimum once a year. The inspectors go out, they visit the sites at least minimum once a year, and some, I should say, average, they visit each site 2 or 3 times a year because they have to meet with the contractors and also the owners to explain what needs to be done or to do the follow-up inspections. All the letters and inspection reports, they are reviewed by our office, and they get emailed to the primary board members of the Maintenance Corporation with the time frame for performing maintenance that it's noted on the report. Maintenance Corporation should complete all the items noted on the inspection report. Any question about the reports should be directed to our office, the Stormwater Management Group. Usually the inspector who inspects the site, your site, their names and phone numbers are on the first page of the report. You can call, you can email, or you can contact any of us in the stormwater group, the section that we work with, and we will get back to you and try to communicate with you, and then hopefully address the question and concern. Next slide, please. What do you need? We send you a copy of the inspection reports. You receive a copy of the report. So there are maintenance and deficiencies that are noted on the report. In order to correct those deficiencies, you need a copy of your open space management plan, as well as operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater management facilities in your community, as well as built plan or landscaping plans. We are fully aware that the older communities, there might not be all the information that I just mentioned for those stormwater management facilities located in the older communities. We have, I can say that majority of our facilities that we have in our inventory, either for the newer ones, we have all the information in our files that we can share with you if you don't have a copy of these information. For the older ones, we have some kind of the information, either it's a construction plan, design plan, stormwater plan, something that shows the details of the BMP or the stormwater management facility in your community, and we are willing to help you out and explain exactly what needs to be done and how you can maintain that facility if it's not referenced on that specific plan that we have in the file. And also a professional contractor who's familiar with this type of the work. We maintain a list of contractors that we can share with you. Those contractors are the ones that are familiar with this type of the work. They have done stormwater maintenance work before, and you can call, and it is our recommendation to call minimum 3 of them, not only from the list, but if you have other contractors, it is highly recommended to get minimum 3 estimates because before you sign a contract, because we have seen a wide range of different prices that it gives you, if you have multiple estimates, it gives you good, you can pick and choose a good contractor with a reasonable price. Next, please. What is the Stormwater Management Maintenance Program, or formerly known as Amnesty Program? It is in the county code. Maintenance organizations that register annually with our office and perform document minor maintenance of those facilities are eligible for the county assistance with any major maintenance, of course, subject to the funds available. And what are the major maintenance? Any structural component failure, for example, broken pipe, broken outlet structure, washout, major sediment, more than 50% of the volume of the pond, or any structures filled with sediment more than 50% of the volume. Those are all can qualify to as a category for major maintenance. And when our inspectors go out and they bring all the information back, it should be determined by our office that facility is in need of major maintenance. And then in that case, it gets added to our list. We have a living list of major projects, and depends on the severity of the work, depends on all the emergency projects that they come, especially after this year that we had so many hurricanes and tornadoes and storm in the county. And we prioritize the list, but they stay on the list until they get fixed. And if the facility is being added to the major list, you see it on your inspection report that your site has been added to the county major list, and for which part that the county will step in and when the time comes and fix the issue. Next slide, please. Speaking of the major projects, there are, as of year 2020, we have 322 residential maintenance corporations registered with our office. And currently there are about 125 stormwater management facilities on our major list. So far, we have spent close to $17 million for fixing and completing the major projects. And as I said, it's a living list. It just, we take 2 or 3, 5 off the list, and there are more that we add to the list. And we try to retrofit these facilities whenever it's possible, and try to enhance the water quality at the same time that we are doing major maintenance. Next slide, please. I'm sure this is the question that my community, for most of you or some of you, that they do your stormwater facility has been added to the major list. That's why my community stormwater facility hasn't been fixed yet. As I said, there are different, when a site or a facility has been added to, it gets added to the major list, there are different category that we prioritize the list for. Some of these facilities need to be re-engineered. And for those, the redesigning of these facilities, sometimes it gets done by the in-house engineers. And sometimes we need to hire engineering consulting firms to do the design plans. And it might take an average of 1 to 3 years to do the design, to get the plans ready to go for construction. And if the facility that has been added to the list only needs reconstruction or structural repair, sometimes, again, we perform those maintenance by the in-house crew or construction support group. And sometimes we have to perform those by hiring an outside contractor. And again, it might take another maybe average of 1 to 18 months. And considering all of those, there are emergency projects and emergency sites that come out of the blue, and we need to add them to our list because of all these natural incidents that can happen. And overnight, we might have 2 or 3 different facilities that they need attention right away. So that's why the list is kind of that sometimes it is getting complicated as far as prioritizing the list. Was what we are trying our best to consider all these facilities and take them off the list one by one. Next slide, please. Common concerns for the maintenance corporations that most of them, who I'm sure that Chris mentioned them and guided you guys. They're the obligations, legal responsibilities per the deed and the maintenance declarations, creating the budget and collecting maintenance dues. We recommend educate other homeowners via email and the community website. Using our own websites and workshops, and we are willing to come to the community meetings. And if you have any questions and any concerns, you always can contact our office or email us, and we will try to address the concern and the question. The communication is the key. Please communicate with our office with any question that you have, because if we don't know what is your question or what is your concern, of course, we can't address that question. We go to the next slide, and I just want to, because of the importance of this topic, I just want to touch it again. Sara actually had a very detailed and informative presentations about this topic. But just want to let you know that, if you see something, please say something about discharging any pollutant to the storm drains or the stormwater management facilities. Anything that gets discharged into the storm drains in your community, it ends up in your stormwater management facilities. So in the next slide, I have, again, this is more like a duplicated information, but there are examples of illicit discharge, pool water, grass clippings, used oil, paint, pet waste. I don't want to go through every one of them because, again, we heard Sara explain, but if you see any of those violations, please report to us by calling stop it, by calling the number, or going to the website, the hotline website, and report. And we try to be out there as soon as we could and investigate the issue and send the proper information and to the violator. I think now I'm done with the information then and my presentation. And again, thank you again for joining us. And please stay safe. And let's see if there is any question.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. The first is from Mr. Kravitz. Where can you get copies of the open space management plan, as-built plan, and landscape plan?
If you send us, if you email me the community, your community's name, we'll look into our files and provide you the copy of the plans. If any plans that we have in the file, we'll definitely try to send you a copy.
Okay, and we have a question from Patty Abernathy who'd like to ask it live, so I will allow her to speak.
Thank you again. It would have been long to write. I wanted to say, Ellie, that one thing you know that we never learned was about conveyance pipes until years later. And it probably is true that many communities do not realize that they have conveyance pipes either. They may think every pipe they have is part of stormwater management at the amnesty program. So I can only ask that that information be shared as much as possible with these communities so they would better understand it, that they need to be able to check them out and eventually put them into their replacement inventory. That's one piece. But secondly, I will also mention that conveyance pipes are now going into the Newcastle County Code. The words were never even in there until now. So in Chapter 40, Article 27, there's some lots of good changes in there, which actually say things that you probably may have been involved in, Ellie. For all I know, you're so detailed, so well detailed, that it does say that the developer has to provide and ensure that all the plantings that they have said they have are really in the stormwater management area. And that if along the way they have not been developing, then they have to provide, they have to pay for the investigation of the soil, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot more things are in there that would better inform the homeowner. And one of the last pieces I'll mention is that before the homeowner is to purchase, they have to know how much it will cost them to maintain the open space. So I thank you for whatever your office did to help this, because it's going to make a really big difference. I was on that Newcastle County Zoom meeting when the land use committee was looking at it. Now it'll go to a vote, but it will help a lot with what has happened. But the word conveyance pipes, I remember saying, what are conveyance pipes? So I thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Patty. I appreciate all your compliments and your effort to update, to help us to update our codes in reference to all the items that you just mentioned. So hopefully from now on, after the codes get updated, everybody is going to have better understanding as far as what they're responsible for.
Okay, we have a question from Mr. Kleinhomer. He says, our facility has been on the list for over 20 years. Is there any plan to complete the hundreds on the list?
For over 20 years, may I ask what community does he live in? Because
Grantchester.
our major list, actually, it's not even 20 years old. It's about 16 years old, but I'm wondering that
his community is Grantchester.
Grantchester, actually, we have worked with our consultant firm last year, and we are the design plans. And the difference is with in some of the older communities, and especially the inline ponds, that the ponds that are older, and back then they just built a berm in front of in the stream. We need to do downstream flooding investigations and study, and as well as again because the condition of some of these facilities hasn't gotten any worse than 10 years ago. We try our best to again prioritize the list, but at the same time address the ones that they need help right away. But at the same time, we want to do the right thing and do all the studies. And I said it might take a few years to complete all the studies before we decide, especially for these older ones like Grantchester, that are we going to eliminate those, or is it possible to eliminate those ponds, or we have to redesign and rebuild them. But as far as Grantchester, I should say that we have done the downstream flooding study, and we are trying to figure out what's the best thing to do as far as redesigning these facilities or eliminating them. But when the time comes, we definitely get the Maintenance Corporation involved as far as letting them know with any update when it comes to make a decision as far as what facility is going to be in the future.
Okay, he said thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And then one more question I have here from Beth Engler. We had our inspection in the spring in Housekeeping Glen, and I emailed pictures of the corrections but never heard back. Can you please check?
Definitely. I'll make a note, and I'll talk to the inspectors whoever did Housekeeping Glen. I should say that due to this COVID since March, we were a little behind as far as getting back to doing our inspection and also getting back to our follow-up inspections. But I appreciate that you brought it up, and I'll definitely talk to Bernadette and other inspectors to make sure that they receive the information and they get back to you as soon as hopefully by end of the week.
Okay. And Patty has another question.
Yeah, okay. One more thing I wanted to say. I'm grateful to help from everyone in DPW. Richard, Ellie, Bernadette, Stacy are the most people I've usually worked with all the time. Great immediate responses. It's a real team of people. Oh, wait a minute. Did I miss anybody? Oh, how about my speed dial to Janice Catherman? I can't thank her
Thank
enough
you, Ben.
as she takes her leave soon, as to her kindness, her clarity of responsibility, of response immediately to us, which comes almost before the question is out of your mouth, you're getting your answer. This is a very special office, and I've been particularly involved with those I've mentioned over the past 8 years or so. I send my best wishes to you, Janice, and I send them to you as you go on to what's next in your life. Thank you. Thanks a million, and God bless you.
Patty, thank you for your kind words. I'll talk to you on the side. I can't. I'm humbled. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, and then one more statement came in from Serenity Lane Maintenance Corporation. They would like to say that mandatory training should be required of all the lawn mowing services, including employees with enforced accountability. Training should be required to receive a license with an annual renewal and required employee seminar.
For maintenance of the stormwater facilities is the...
Yes, that's what I believe that the question was, or the statement was referring to.
Good suggestion, and we'll talk internally and to see if we can work out a program that contractors do attend the seminars, and that way they understand what our program is about and what is required by the county.
Okay, that looks like it for the questions. We can move on to Bernadette.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Ellie. Our next speaker is Bernadette Igo. Bernadette is our Stormwater Inspection Supervisor. Her presentation is called the Annual Stormwater Management Inspection Process. And Bernadette, may I ask you to do the introductions of your our inspectors?
Yes.
Thank you.
How are you tonight? I'm so glad to see so many participants participating in the luxury of their own home. I have to say, I'm sorry that we didn't get to meet and greet and socialize, but hopefully next year. We do have 2 brand new wonderful inspectors. First, let me start off with our most experienced, Bill Jones, who's been here, and I'm sure lots of you have met him. And now we have Julie Petrosky, my apologies, Julie, and Brian Allen. They've been here since July and August, and they have been wonderful. They've helped us reach our goal of actually finishing the stormwater annual inspections so that we're not in the office on Christmas Eve running out to the different sites. So we're getting there. So thank you to Bill, Julie, and Brian. So my job is to, besides inspect, is to review every single inspection that is done. So each of the over 2,500 annual inspections that are done, I review them. I look at the pictures that the inspectors take. I review the inspections from last year. I review the inspection that the inspector has completed for this year and see how they're doing. And so the report is based on the deficiencies that they note on their annual inspections. The type of facilities that we inspect annually are the dry ponds, wet ponds, the bioretentions, rain gardens, filter strips, bioswales, constructed wetlands, and catch basin inserts. Next video. What we all look for when we go out to each facility. First, we need to see that there's an access to and around all components of the pond at all times. We look for any sediment accumulation in and around the structures and in the pond. We look for invasive vegetation such as phragmites and cattails. We look for any erosion problems or animal burrows. We look for grass stabilization. We see the condition of if the facility has vegetative buffers. We look for any structural damage for the pipes and structures, the outlet and outfall structures, and just overall general condition, if there's trash, condition of the buffers, water elevations, etc. Next slide. So what we've done this year is we've taken some videos with some explanations of what the inspector, the process, what we look for, and we'll have an audio. So the first one is a typical dry pond that we go through the inspection.
Here we have a stormwater dry pond treating parking lot and building runoff in high storm events. Across the way you have 3 rip-rap lined inlet channels taking in the water. In front of us we have an outfall control structure and it's low flow. In this area, there's probably some recommended maintenance that we can talk about in order to make sure this is properly functioning, easy to access, and complete annual inspections. And to this side of the pond, we have a rip-rap lined emergency spillway, making sure that's free of woody vegetation, weeds, debris, making sure each structural component of a dry pond is accessible, well-maintained, good vegetative stabilization. Just kind of giving you an overview of what we come out and do every day here in Newcastle County, ensuring good maintenance, good housekeeping, removing trash and debris from the facility, ultimately talking about stormwater education and ensuring good water quality. Behind this outlet structure is a 10-foot wide access path to the outfall. That outfall structure connects to a manhole and then outfalls into a riprap outlet protection area, which we call the outfall location. And right now it does need some maintenance to see the pipe, but overall the access path is there. So an inspector can walk up to it and just say, hey, look, we need routine maintenance. We're willing to work with you and make sure this discharge
is flowing positively into the proper location. But keeping the facility clear, open, accessible are good key points of maintenance to highlight. So this was a dry pond. There's many different features that might not be here, that might be at another dry pond that you've seen. Feel free to bring it up, questions. We really appreciate this. Thank you. All right, everyone, so here
Our next video is for a typical wet pond.
Delaware. This is a wet pond, and I'm completing a 2019 annual inspection, and there's certain structural features in a stormwater inspection that an inspector needs to look at. And so to talk about maintenance and what we look for, we're looking at the wet pond right here, and across the pond you have a concrete inlet structure. We make sure that area is clear from woody vegetation, overgrown vegetation, algae, invasive vegetation, minor sediment that can accumulate from high stormwater events. And so there's a structure right there. And then right in front of us we have an outlet structure. It has a trash rack at the top, minor debris. And so in heavy storm events, that water and debris can wash up, and so minor maintenance is needed to keep this pond functioning. And so we just make sure everything's working. So for this wet pond in general, grass growing 4 to 6 inches to ensure good stabilization throughout the pond. There might be some minor recommendations that we as a group can discuss to make this wet pond good and continue to stay in compliance. All right, so I'm going to be walking back. From the outlet structure, we then have the outfall structure. So we would like to provide a 10-foot wide access path to all outfall structures, where this pipe outfalls into a riprap in outfall forebay, and the pipe itself will transfer and discharge that runoff that's held in the wet pond out to here and probably to a local stream. In this area, we'd like to see it free of trash, debris, overgrown woody vegetation. You might see that on the comments. Making sure the structure's intact, monitoring minor rusting, and that's where that ultimate stormwater runoff goes to.
Our next slide is a typical bioretention.
We're now doing an inspection for a bioretention basin. First thing we're looking at is the number and species of plants to make sure that they're installed as seen on the approved landscape plan. This particular basin appears to have all the plants in place, slightly overgrown. They should be trimmed back probably in the fall, but it will be listed on the approved landscape plan when it should be trimmed back. There are some minor grass and weeds growing inside that need to be removed. That would be listed on the inspection report. Taking a look at the mulch in this facility, there are areas of the bioretention basin do not have any mulch. The biomix media is evident with no mulch. So this facility will need triple shredded mulch installed to a minimum of 3 inches, which is the design depth for a bioretention basin. As part of the inspection, we're checking the inspection port or the clean out. Basically, we're looking for any water that's being held in the bottom of the inspection port. If that we were to find water in there, that would mean that we're not getting the correct filtration. It should not be holding water. In this case, there is no water being held, as you can hear by that sound. Also, as you can see, there's grass clippings in the top of the mulch. They should not be there when cutting the grass. The mowing, they should discharge the grass clippings away from the bioretention facility and not into the mulch. We're now inspecting the inlet pipe. Riprap line inlet channel to make sure that there's no sediment, vegetation, or debris in the riprap line inlet forebay. We're now inspecting the outlet structure, checking the trash rack, which looks perfect in this case, make sure there's no debris on the trash rack and is structurally acceptable. Also checking the structural component of the of the box itself. The outside of it looks good, no cracks, no spalling. Now we'll take a look at the inside. Inside the structure, don't see any spalling or cracks. We're checking the seal around the outlet pipe, which is the larger black PVC pipe. We're also checking the condition of the underdrain and the seal around the underdrain, which is the white PVC pipe inside of the outlet structure. Now we're walking to the outfall. As part of the inspection of the outfall, we're looking at the riprap lined outfall forebay to make sure there's no vegetation or sediment. In this case, there is vegetation in the riprap that will need to be removed in order to be in compliance. There is no sediment. And then we want to check the structural component of the pipe itself coming in. The outfall pipe and flare end section seems to be in good condition. That completes the inspection of the bioretention facility.
This is a typical filter strip with a stone level spreader.
This is an inspection of a grass filter strip. As you can see, this one has a stone level spreader or stone diaphragm. Some grass filter strips do not have this stone level spreader. This one does. So as part of the inspection, we're looking for the stone level spreader to be free of sediment, vegetation, and debris, which for the most part this is. Very, very, very minor sediment in the stone. If it was inundated, it would need to be removed in order to be in compliance. We're also looking for a good stand of grass in the grass filter strip itself. If there were any bare areas, we would ask for those areas to be reseeded and get a good stand of grass growing. This one, the grass looks really healthy and really good, even though this time of the year it's very dry. In addition to that, the grass should be maintained per the height on the plans. In this case, the height of the grass is specified to be cut no lower than 6 inches. The one additional thing that we would be looking for is the slots in the parking bumpers. We would make sure that the slots are not inundated with sediment and blocked, which would cause areas of concentrated flow going around the parking bumpers. So as you can see, the slots under the parking bumpers are open and free flowing. So overall, this inspection looks really good. This facility is in compliance, and that completes this inspection for a grass filter strip.
This is a very good example of a biofiltration swale.
This is an inspection for a biofiltration swale. The first thing we're going to look at is the riprap lined inlet forebay and the inlet pipe itself. Lined inlet forebay and the pipe, the structure itself. The integrity of the pipe looks, although a little worn, it looks adequate. The riprap in the forebay itself overall looks pretty good. There is minor sediment and very minor vegetation. So in order to be compliant, we would ask for the minor sediment to be removed as well as any vegetation. The reason the vegetation we ask for be removed in order that we can see sediment. If it's totally covered with vegetation, we cannot see the sediment in the forebay itself. Therefore, the vegetation has to be removed in order to be compliant. As part of the inspection, we're also checking rock check dams, which this has 3 rock check dams. Some biofiltration swales have check dams, some do not. We're looking for the rock check dams to be free of any accumulated sediment and vegetation. These look great. They do not have sediment in front of them. If they did, the sediment would need to be removed. The vegetation would need to be removed if it was in the riprap. We're also looking for the vegetation in the swale itself. The vegetation should be typically 4 to 8 inches, 4 to 12 inches in height. This one, the vegetation is approximately 10 to 12 inches. There's a great strand of grass. The vegetation looks great. In addition to the bottom of the swale, the slopes of the swale should also have vegetation and also be at between 4 to 12 inches typically. And that concludes this inspection for our biofiltration swale.
The next slide is for constructed wetland. And before we get into playing for this one, I just want to stress the importance of vegetation for all of these facilities. You have a couple DMPs that like catch basin inserts, which you're about to see. The vegetation is the responsibility of your community to make sure it's taken care of and it is surviving, because it is incorporating as part of the design of the functionality for the stormwater facility. Now, the constructed wetlands, we're seeing more and more in particularly southern Newcastle County. We do have a couple that have been thriving well for years, and it's thriving well due to the fact that they're being taken care of. And we do recommend a company who is knowledgeable of how to take care of the plants, and do have a license for chemical treatments for invasives that Bill's going to talk about here, Phragmites, cattails, and some other ones. But we can't stress enough, you need to take care of your vegetation. They are the key component for proper function of these stormwater facilities. And we can play this now.
This is an inspection of a constructed wetland stormwater facility. As you can see, the native aquatic vegetation throughout. As we walk around, you'll see some invasive Phragmites, which should not be there, which will need to be removed, will need to be treated, cut and removed from the site. This is an inlet to the constructed wetland. As you can see, it has a little bit of vegetation in the riprap lined inlet forebay. In order to be in compliance, the vegetation will need to be removed from the forebay, from all the riprap in the forebay. We're looking for sediment, which this forebay does not appear to hold much sediment. And we're actually looking at the structural component of the integrity of the inlet pipe. As you can see, the inlet pipe and flared end section are failing slightly. That's not the responsibility of the owner of the pond. That's actually a DelDOT pipe, and DelDOT's responsible for making repairs to any inlet pipes or flared end sections. We as Newcastle County will inform DelDOT when we see pipes that are failing, and work orders are created at that time. We have someone's decided to use the wetland as a dumping ground for some cut down vegetation. In order to be compliant, that cut vegetation will need to be removed from the facility. As we walk around the constructed wetland, in front of us now is a forebay, which by design is supposed to hold water in order for the constructed wetland vegetation. As we walk around the pond, you can see additional invasive vegetation, the Phragmites sprouting up. Again, they'll need to be treated, cut, and removed. This facility does have a buffer around the outside of it. As you can see, all the native plants look beautiful in the buffer, which is by design, and the buffer is supposed to be there. In addition to the Phragmites, there's some invasive purple loosestrife growing in this facility. As you can see from the video, that too will need to be treated and removed. We're now making our way to the outlet of this constructed wetland. As part of our inspection, we need a 10-foot wide access path. As you can see, this pipe is clearly accessible. At this point, we're looking for any sediment that might be built up in the riprap forebay area in front of the outlet pipe. This has very minor, if any, vegetation or sediment in it. So this is the outlet of the constructed wetland. So after the water's been treated in the constructed wetland, it's collected and transferred to a DelDOT conveyance system, which actually is a DelDOT catch basin at this point. So there is minimal water. You can see where the water elevation is where it should be. There's minimal water making its way through the outlet pipe.
The newer communities are actually installing some catch basin inserts. We don't have a video for this one, but you want to hire a company that is familiar with lifting the grates and cleaning out the cartridges and the debris around the catch basins. This does need to be, since they're in the street, they collect the debris pretty often. So these do need to be maintained throughout the year. Just follow the maintenance guideline. As I said, each facility, and as Ellie said, must be inspected annually. So every single one gets an inspection report. Next slide. Re-inspections. We do quite a few re-inspections. So facilities with recurring deficiencies will have follow-up re-inspections performed and will be tracked by the assigned inspector until the work is completed. Next slide. We do give extensions. Generally, our reports would go out with 30 days to complete the work due to the COVID. We understand it's harder to hire and get people out there. So we're generally given 60 days now, once the report is mailed out, for you to get the work done and submit pictures back to us. But extensions are acceptable, weather permitting, of course, and we've had a lot of bad weather this year. If you're working with outside companies for guidance to help you with any maintenance on your facility, we'll work over a span of time as long as progress is being made and it is being approved by our stormwater engineer. We ask that communication is the key to this. As long as you keep emailing us, calling us, letting us know that you're doing the work or you're having trouble getting a contractor, as long as you communicate, we were happy to grant extensions. Next slide. A lot of common questions to go over. Can the annual inspections be scheduled? Unfortunately, we cannot. We have way too many facilities. Again, as you heard, we're going to probably be over 2,600 this year, even though we do have more inspectors. It's just, we could not schedule inspections for everyone. So unfortunately, no. Can a site meeting to explain the annual inspection report be scheduled? In certain cases, yes, if you don't know exactly what is going on, if you're new to the position and you just get the inspection report and you're not familiar, we can. If we do have a scheduled site meeting, we need to make sure that you have a hired contractor. We cannot keep going out for people who want to if you want to get 3 or 4 different estimates. We understand you want to get estimates, but we can only meet with a hired contractor who's doing the work. We want to make sure that this hired contractor is qualified to do the work. We would like to see that you have copies of the stormwater as-built, so you understand the design of the pond and what we're looking for, and that you understand the work that needs to be done. If you do not have a copy of the stormwater as-built, you can request one from our office. Just give us a call, give the inspector a call. You can request one through filling out a Freedom from Information Act, and we'll send you that as-built for you and your contractor. And then we want to make sure that you have time to complete the work by the deadline given. We're happy to give deadlines, but it has to be done within reason. Can the site meeting to re-inspect the work be completed, be scheduled? What we're asking, especially in these times, for the contractor or for somebody on the board to please take pictures. We highly recommend that if you have a contractor who's doing the work, that you go out and inspect the work. You want to make sure what you're paying for is done. So either have the contractor take pictures and send to the inspector, or you yourself, whoever the responsible party overseeing the stormwater, please take pictures. And if you could, please submit the pictures with their site name and or their unit ID number, which is found on the inspection report on the first page. And you can send that to the assigned inspector. Next page. We do our best. I know a lot of you have questions. So your best to reach out with us through email. Our inspectors do have laptops, and We will always get back to you. It may be a day or two, but we'll always get back to you and answer your questions. We really appreciate your cooperation and your patience in working with us. And just one note, these ponds need maintenance all year long, just not when you get the inspection report. So we have pictures from year to year, so we can tell what, what work is done, what work hasn't been done. But all in all, you've been doing a great job. So thank you again.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. The first is from Mr. Kravitz. How do you recommend removal of sediment that has settled on the riprap?
That is usually manual labor. Again, you want to make sure you hire a contractor that is familiar with this type of work. It is either they can use the blowers to blow out the sediment to the side, which can be shaked and shoveled and pulled out, or sometimes it's going in, picking up the riprap, moving it away, shoveling out the sediment, and then replacing the riprap. We want to see the clean riprap in the 4 bays. The riprap 4 bays are there. They're doing their job by collecting the sediment. You want to get that sediment before it gets in the pond. But it is manual labor.
Okay, and a question from Serenity Lane Maintenance Corp. Should a bioswale be mowed to a minimum of 4 inches, kept between 4 and 6 inches, or grass kept higher for filtration?
Good question. Generally, the biofiltration swales are designed to be kept to 4 to 6 inches. Some of them do have different heights. It all depends on the design of the plant, but we, in general, on the inspection report, say grow and maintain at 4 to 6 inches.
Okay. And then a question from another attendee asks if they can get photos of the inspections that are done.
Fortunately, no. We're inundated with enough work, and then for us to send out, we would have to hire a couple more people to get that done. But we do have photos on file that we refer to. Unfortunately, we cannot. We've had that question before, but we cannot submit photos with the inspection report.
And that appears to be it for now.
Thank you, Bernadette, very much. As usual, very informative.
You, Janice.
And yes, ma'am.
I just said thank you, Janice.
Oh, you're welcome, Bernadette. I'm batting cleanup. I promise I'm going to get through this sooner than later, but I do have 2 people in our stormwater family that are not here with us this evening. One is Nate Carey. Nate Carey is our staff engineer, and Nate is responsible for the calls that come in regarding drainage on someone's property. The person doesn't know who to call. If it's not a stormwater management facility, who do they call? Not Ghostbusters, but they're going to call Nate Carey. And if you call our stormwater office, we will transfer you over to Nate's office, or his phone number will be available at the end of tonight's presentation. So you'll be able to see his email and his telephone number. The other person who is not with us this evening is Carolyn Magnotti. Carolyn is our Customer Information and Assistance Coordinator. Carolyn single-handedly processes every stormwater inspection report and notice of violation. So she is fabulous. And when inspection reports are completed, Carolyn processes them, emails them to the maintenance corporations, and the commercial inspection reports get mailed by certified mail. So I just wanted to let you know, we have a full family working together to do this inspection process for all of our stormwater facilities. So you can reach out to any one of us. It's Delaware, we're small, so you can get to know us. I would like to start my presentation. It is Stormwater Maintenance Program Annual Registration and Logs. This is our website. You can reach us, you can find our website 2 ways. by the HTTP website, or you can just go in and Google Newcastle County Stormwater. That will take you to our stormwater website. And as you can see, the second one down, the Stormwater Management, Newcastle County, click on that one and that will take you to our website. And this is our stormwater webpage. It's been updated since last year. For the registration forms, you will, and let me just preface one thing. Today I started emailing the reminder letter to remind you to fill out your annual registration form, which will be for 2021, and also to submit your 2020 inspection and maintenance logs. So to find your registration form online, you would go to our stormwater website, and the third one down in the green box says says Maintenance Corporation Registration. When you click on that, it will bring up our registration form. And actually, I apologize. It'll take you to the link right there at the bottom. You'll click on that and that will take you to our, there we go. This form is what you will see on your screen. You'll fill in your name, whoever is filling this out, the community name, your mailing address, and then it goes on to fill out your president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. The next page will show you what I see on my end. Once I get your information, this is the format that we have in our office. And when it asks you if you have a property management company, that's not your contractor. That is a property management company. There are probably 10 that we have on a list. And a property management company would be someone who you would hire to help you run your maintenance corporation, collect your dues, send out reminder letters, type up your newsletter. So that's the name that we're looking for in the property management company fields. And please, even if you email me and say, Janice, we don't have any changes, same people for the past 10 years, I need a new registration form. It's all online, so it's easy to just type it in, and please give me name, address, email, and phone number for each position. Next slide. When you finish your registration form, you'll go back to the main webpage and you will then see in the green box, facility maintenance. You'll click on that facility maintenance and that will take you to the middle of the next page. At the bottom, you'll see there are your options to print either a BMP log, which is bioretention, biofiltration, swale, a pond, a green roof, or subsurface stormwater facilities. Most maintenance corporations are going to use the BMP or the pond. Please just don't click on the first one for BMP and you have a pond. I must have the correct log for the correct type of facility you have. If you're not sure what type of stormwater facility you have, that's found on your inspection report. So if you just click on, and we're going to pretend we're clicking on the pond log, when you go to the next screen, sorry, I did it alphabetically, shame on me. This is the BMP log, and I thank you, Shannon, for filling out this form and making it fillable online. So you as maintenance corporations, you can fill out this log for your BMP, and up at the top, type of facility, please fill in it, whether it's a bioretention, a bioswale, whatever type of facility. The location name, again, all this information is on your inspection reports. So you would fill in your development, location, type of facility, and your contractor's name. Who is your contractor? We're trying to also get an estimate on the amount of the cost to maintain your stormwater facilities. Not that we are doing anything with this information yet, but we're just trying to track and see how much our maintenance corporation spending per stormwater management facility. The board member, just give us whoever is filling out this form, and you don't have to sign it. It can be signed electronically, and you can then check mark any of the boxes that are applicable to the maintenance of your stormwater facility. What is wonderful, once you fill this out, you can save it to a file. And if you have multiple stormwater facilities, you'll save your filled out completed logs to a file. Then you will email all your completed logs to me, and that way you'll have a copy for your records. You don't have to fax them to me anymore. If you really want to keep faxing them, you can still fill out this form electronically, print it out, and fax it over to me. But we're trying to make it easier for you. Next, please. The next log here is a pond. So again, development name, location of facility, that's found on the inspection report. Mostly you're going to put the name of the street that that facility is located. And then type of facility, wet or dry pond. Check off the boxes, save this filled out form, a log, to a document, and then you can email that document to me. Next, please. This would be a subsurface. Not many maintenance corporations have subsurface facilities. These would be the catch basin inserts, and some do have underground tanks. In this particular case, you are going to need a contractor who can inspect, and if that contractor has to go inside that facility, such as using a camera, you're going to need to hire a contractor who has the ability to do that. We have a contractors list that we can supply, and those contractors have the equipment to do those types of inspections. Again, the name of the owner would be the name of the board member, and you can flip to the next page, please. It's a 2-page document, and the contractor's name and company will be filled in, and the address. And if the contractor has any comments, he can fill that in the description area there. Next, please. This is our resources page. This is, again, back on our main stormwater page. And the resources in the green is where you will go to see where we have our presentations. As you can see in the bottom, residential presentations. Those are from 2019. And Shannon will upload this year's presentations to this area. So you will go to the web page, click on the resources tab, and then you'll be able to click on each of our presentations. Okay, next, please. If you really, really can't sleep, on that resources page, you can click on that, and this is the state of Delaware web page that gives you all sorts of stormwater reading. The 5 Simple Steps is a fabulous booklet. I wish that we could get that updated, but we don't have enough time to update it. So please feel free to download any of these. They are absolutely fabulous regarding how to maintain stormwater management facilities. Questions you may have, you're more than welcome to go to each of these websites and take a look. Next, please. At the beginning, Patty Abernathy, dear friend, mentioned, this is my last year. This is my last time doing stormwater management webinars, seminars. After 25 years, I'm finally retiring. I promised you all last year I would retire last year, but It's happening this year. So I wanted to thank every one of you so much, for those of you who I've had an opportunity to meet. And Carolyn will be taking over a lot of my duties, but some of the duties also will be spread amongst the other stormwater staff members. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, each and every one of you. And I will be with the county till January 4th. So I will stalk you until January 4th, until you submit those logs to me and registrations. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. God bless. And I'm done.
Thank you, Janice. We do have one question. It's from Serenity Lane. They said, "Hi, Janice. Does the Maintenance Corporation populate the annual inspection report on a monthly basis? In other words, what inspections were performed monthly?"
It is up to the Maintenance Corporation how they wish to fill out the maintenance and inspection log. You can do it on a monthly basis, or you can wait. Many people wait to the end of the year to go ahead and fill out their annual inspection report. It's totally up to you. The logs that we ask require minimum of 2, up to 4 inspections a year. And when I say inspections, that means you as a board member have your contractor who goes out to mow the grass. You're going to put a check mark in, say, March, April, May, June, all the way through the fall. They also, when they cut the grass, they can put a check mark in the clearing of debris and trash out of your stormwater facility. But totally up to you whether you fill it out on a monthly basis or whether you do it all at one time. Totally up to you.
Okay, and the only other comment we have is from Barry Strauss, and he says, "Thank you, Janice. Great speaking with you."
Thank you, Barry. Thank you so much. And this, as you see on your screen, is a list of all of our speakers. Well, I apologize. This is a list of our county contact people, emails, phone numbers, positions, spelling of names. So you can, you'll be able to get this when you look at the screen online, and you can actually print this out if you'd like. If anyone has any other questions that you did not ask tonight or think of overnight, you can email any of us or call us and we'll get back to you. Thank you, everyone.